So a customer came to me and said, my electric window doesn't work anymore. Well, after a little bit of testing, we found out the motor was knackered. So we went ahead and ordered a new one. And this is where I come round to fit it and take in most of the parts off of the old one to make sure that it fits perfect. The size was fine. I just wanted to make sure that the fittings that go onto the window that pushes the window open was exactly the same. So once we got all the fittings onto the new motor, the time was to fit the new motor onto the brackets. The brackets that were existing already that we can use because they're fitted to the window already. There's no point in taking them off and putting new ones on because it would just weaken the screw heads that go onto the window. So all we needed to do was take the two screws off and fit the new motor. And then because we used the brackets from the old motor, the screws that fitted on to the window were exactly the same. So that was spot on. All we needed to do was make sure they're nice and tight. And we had new screws to put in there as well. It's always nice to use new bits if you've got it. And then it all was a matter of just connecting the new cables into the JB box that was just on top. This JB box is because it gets a plug supply from the back of the fridge, which I'm on top of. And it also goes down to a switch, which is a manual switch underneath the cupboards to be able to open and close the window. So we've got to make sure we get open and close on the right way around of this junction box as well. But what I'm doing, I'm ripping this old junction box out. I'm going to put a Wago box in because I find that the Wagos are a better connection. So I want to rip it to bits and start again. So I know for a fact that I've got 4 cables coming from the switch. So there's a live, an open live from the switch and a close live from the switch. So each of them puts a Wago on before I actually connect it all together, because as well I want to put the live signal cable, because there is a black and a grey in here which are all both lives, so I want to identify them as live too. And then this is the live neutral and earth coming from where we have it plugged in above the fridge, which I'm going to re-terminate as well just to make it a little bit nice and neat. And this is where we pick up the neutral for the motor. So this is why we've got a junction box, because we need to put a neutral to the motor as well, and just the 2 open and close switches. And this can all be connected inside this Wago box on top of the fridge. So then from this junction box, we can pick up the live, which is going to open it, the live, which will close it, which I'm going to also identify with a bit of brown sleeving, just in case someone else comes along, so I know which is which. And this is how it's going to be able to send the live up to the motor to open and to the motor to close. But then, of course, we can't just leave the exposed wires all connected into nothing. So I want to make them nice and neat and tidy and safe, basically, by putting them inside this Wago box, which I think these Wago boxes are spot on, because you can mount the cables inside there and they can slip into that top bit. And then after they're fixed in there nice and neat, you know your connections are all tight, you can get them nice into that little gap at the bottom which hold it nice and secure. Click the lid on, and there we go. We can put it back behind the fridge where the rest of the wires go. And then, as if by magic, there we go. The windows opens perfect. So my diagnosis originally that the motor was knackered was completely correct. But then, as always, there's an extra job as well. Oh, Ben, I've got a new fan to go up in the kitchen. Do you mind doing that whilst you're here? Yep, no worries, we can do that. But because it's so awkward in the position, I need a little stubby. And this is where my perfect little stubby comes in there. Look, just change it around to a Phillips head. And finally, I can get it in there just to take this cover off, because I want to whip this fan down to start with. But, of course, before we whip it down, I want to make sure it's dead. I don't want a live cable to be hanging there. I'll have to disconnect it. So I want to make sure that it's dead, test that it's dead, prove that it's dead once again before we actually rip it off the ceiling. And then finally finding out that this is being plugged into, which is not a problem. So we can get it down nice and safe and dispose of that old one. And the old one had 2 little 10mm threads coming out where we can connect it onto. So I really wouldn't mind using these little, 8mm threads, sorry, come out with a 10mm nut. So it holds it up nice and secure. But the other one's got a different bracket. So we've got to manufacture our own little bracket to go up there, really, at an angle, obviously, so I can still get my screwdriver in and tighten it up. And conveniently, with this new fan, it's got a little hook. So once you get your bracket up, you can hook it on there to hold it in place whilst you do your connections for the electrical. Like, it just makes it a lot easier because you don't have to juggle with 2 or 3 hands. And then once I got my connections done for the live earth and neutral, because obviously this is switched and it's got a remote control with it. So yes, you can plug it straight into a wall socket and it'll shove the live earth and neutral to it, but it'll be controlled by remote control. It came with a remote control, so you can turn the fan speed on backwards and forwards, and then also a light around the edge. It's pretty smart. I'm pretty excited to see this working. With any fan that you install, you've got to make sure it's up there fixed properly because it vibrates. Basically, it's a moving component. So if it vibrates a little bit, a screw comes out, that's going to fall down on the customer's head. That's something you don't want to do. You'll never get a job out of that guy again if he gets his fan smacked on his head. So you've got to make sure all the connections are nice and tight. So when that fan vibrates, it's not going to fall down. Now, time to test. Voila, look at that. That light's pretty amazing, really. I don't mind that. A cool white light. With this fan, you can change it from warm white to cool white. It's a pretty fantastic light, I think. And then let's see if the fan works. Which, to be able to try the fan, obviously, we've got to put the batteries in the controls, which it came with, a nice set of batteries. So we'll stick the batteries in the controls and then obviously turn the fan on at a certain speed. Go on, Ben, try it. Well, you're playing with the lights now, that's fine. They dim down as well. Pretty cool, it does everything, this. And there we go, the fan comes on and it's a beautiful breeze. If I had long hair, this would be beautiful.